Rain fell in thin silver lines across Gangnam, turning the streets into mirrors of neon and shadow. The man standing beneath the overhang of the high-rise did not flinch. Cars slowed when they passed him. People crossed the street. Even the rain seemed to hesitate before touching his tailored black coat. Kang Jun-suk did not chase fear. Fear came to him. At 32, he was already a name spoken in lowered voices, chairman of a logistics empire by day, undisputed head of the Biko syndicate by night. Clean records, impeccable manners, a smile that never reached his eyes. Tonight, he had come personally. That alone meant something had gone wrong. Inside the building, the elevator chimed softly as it reached the 15th floor. Jun-suk stepped out onto a marble corridor washed in pale gold light. The air smelled faintly of citrus cleaner and something else, warm, unfamiliar. Human. He stopped. At the far end of the hallway, a woman stood frozen in front of an apartment door, her hand hovering inches from the keypad as if she were afraid to touch it. She wore a simple burgundy dress, sleeveless despite the cold, fabric clinging to her frame like it was the only thing holding her together. Her hair fell straight and light around her shoulders, catching the hallway lights like silver threads. But it was her face that made the world tilt. Half of it seemed to pull the light in. The other half reflected it back differently. Not broken, not hidden, just different. The woman felt it before she saw him. That pressure, that quiet weight in the air. Her shoulders tightened. Slowly, carefully, she turned. Her eyes met his. And for a single, impossible second, Kang Jun-suk forgot how to breathe. People had looked at him his entire life with fear, hunger, calculation. This woman looked at him like she was bracing for pain, but refusing to bow to it. She didn't scream, didn't run. Her lips parted slightly, breath shallow. Her fingers curled into her palm. Jun-suk realized, distantly, that he had been told not to look at her. She keeps to herself, his lieutenant had said earlier. Locals avoid her. Something about her makes people uncomfortable. He had assumed superstition. He had not expected this. "Who are you?" she asked. Her voice was steady. Too steady for someone whose pulse was clearly racing. He could see it at her throat. Jun-suk took a step forward. She didn't retreat. "Interesting. Kang Jun-suk," he said calmly. "I'm looking for someone." Her gaze flickered. Just for a moment. Not fear. Recognition. "I don't know anyone by that name," she replied. A lie. Practiced one. The rain outside grew louder, like it was listening. Jun-suk studied her face without apology. He had spent years reading people, micro-expressions, breath patterns, silence. This woman was guarded, but not deceptive by nature. She was hiding, not from him, from the world. "What's your name?" he asked. A beat. Mara. It was not a Korean name. The pause before it told him everything. "Mara," he repeated, tasting it. "You live alone?" "Yes." Another lie. Softer this time. The hallway lights flickered briefly. She inhaled sharply. There it was. Fear. But it wasn't of him. It was of being seen. Jun-suk took another step closer, stopping at a respectful distance. He could see the faint tremor in her hands now, the tension in her jaw. She had learned how to stand still when threatened. "People say no one looks at you," he said quietly. Her eyes hardened. "People say a lot of things. They say you bring trouble." Her lips curved into something that wasn't a smile. "Trouble always finds me. I don't invite it." Silence stretched between them, thick and electric. Jun-suk felt something unfamiliar shift in his chest. Not desire. Not pity. Recognition. "I didn't come to hurt you," he said. Mara let out a breath she'd clearly been holding. "Men who say that usually do." He nodded once. "Fair." Another pause. Then, footsteps echoed from the stairwell behind her. Mara's body reacted before her mind did. She stiffened. Her eyes darted past him, panic flaring like a match struck in darkness. Jun-suk turned. Two men stood at the end of the corridor, pretending not to stare too openly. Cheap suits. Wrong shoes. The kind of men who watched instead of walked. Not his. He felt the shift immediately. Threat assessment snapped into place. Mara's voice dropped to a whisper. You should go. Why? He asked without turning back. Because if they see you talking to me, she said, they won't leave you alone. One of the men laughed quietly. Junsuk smiled. It was not a kind smile. He turned back to Mara. Is that what you're afraid of? That people who look at you get hurt? Her eyes searched his face, as if trying to decide whether honesty was safe. Everyone who gets too close, she said softly now, ends up paying for it. The men began walking toward them, slow, confident. Junsuk felt the familiar calm settle over him. Violence was easy, clean, predictable. But when he glanced back at Mara, at the way her shoulders drew inward like she was preparing for blame, something stopped him. He stepped forward, placing himself between her and the approaching men. Mara sucked in a breath. What are you doing? Looking at you, he said simply. The men halted. Recognition flashed across their faces. Kang Junsuk. Their color drained instantly. I think, Junsuk continued evenly, you were just leaving. One of them swallowed hard. Chairman Kang. We didn't realize. Of course you didn't, Junsuk replied. They backed away without another word. When the corridor fell silent again, Mara stared at him like he had rewritten gravity. You didn't have to do that, she said. Yes, he answered. I did. She studied him for a long moment, rainlight reflecting in her eyes. You don't know what you just stepped into. I know exactly what I step into, Junsuk said. Her keypad beeped as she finally pressed the code. The door unlocked with a soft click. She hesitated. Then, against every instinct she had learned to obey, she looked back at him. Why? She asked. Why didn't you look away? Junsuk met her gaze fully now. Because, he said, voice low, honest in a way that surprised even him. No one should live like they're a secret they didn't choose. Something in Mara's expression broke. Not tears. Relief. She stepped inside, then paused at the doorway. You should forget you saw me. Junsuk shook his head once. I don't think I can. The door closed between them, but the echo of her presence lingered in the hallway, in his chest, in the quiet space he had kept locked for years. As Junsuk turned away, his phone vibrated. A single message from his lieutenant. Boss, we found her file. She's not just hiding. Someone very powerful wants her erased. Junsuk stopped walking. For the first time in a long while, fear crept into his thoughts, not for himself, but for the woman no one dared look at, until he did. If you're enjoying this story so far, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel. And tell me something in the comments. If you were in his place, would you walk away from her to protect your power, or would you choose love even if it cost you everything? The city did not sleep that night. From the floor-to-ceiling windows of Kang Junsuk's penthouse, Seoul glittered like a living thing, restless, breathing, watching. Traffic traced glowing veins through the darkness. Neon signs blinked in languages of hunger and promise. Junsuk stood barefoot on cold marble, jacket discarded, sleeves rolled just enough to reveal the faint scar circling his wrist. He hadn't moved since the message came in. Someone very powerful wants her erased. He replayed the hallway in his mind. The way Mara's shoulders had tightened at the sound of footsteps. The way she'd looked at him not like a savior, but like a man who might become collateral damage. People didn't react like that without reason. His phone vibrated again. Talk, he said. His lieutenant's voice came through low and cautious. We pulled what we could without tripping alarms. Her name isn't Mara. Junsuk already knew. She entered the country 3 years ago. No family records. No employment trail past small cash jobs. But before that, a pause. Before that, she was nowhere. Nowhere, Junsuk repeated. As in, her existence was wiped. Medical records altered. Facial data scrubbed. Someone spent serious money making sure she disappeared. Junsuk closed his eyes. He thought of the way people avoided her. How rumors grew teeth when fear needed a reason. Who's hunting her? He asked. Another pause. Longer this time. We're not sure. But the digital fingerprints. His lieutenant swallowed. They overlap with a private security conglomerate tied to a multinational board. Not street criminals. This is corporate level. Jun-suk exhaled slowly. This was not a coincidence. Keep digging, he said. Quietly. Yes, boss. The call ended. Jun-suk turned back to the window. Rain had started again, streaking the glass, distorting the city into fragments. For years he had ruled through control, through distance, through never letting emotion dictate movement. And yet, he could still see her eyes, not afraid of him, afraid of the consequences of him noticing. Mara sat on the floor of her apartment, back pressed to the door, knees drawn to her chest. She counted her breaths. 1, 2, 3. Her apartment was small but carefully arranged. No excess, no personal photos, nothing that suggested permanence. The kind of place built for leaving quickly. Her hands trembled despite her efforts to still them. She had broken her own rule. Don't be seen. Don't be remembered. Never let curiosity outweigh survival. And yet she had looked back at him. Kang Jun-suk. She knew that name. Everyone in certain circles did. She stood and moved to the kitchen sink, splashing cold water on her face. Her reflection stared back at her in pieces. Familiar, foreign, impossible to hide. Stupid, she whispered. The men in the hallway weren't random. They never were. They always came closer eventually, tightening the circle. But tonight something had shifted. She hadn't been alone. That scared her more than the men ever had. Her phone buzzed on the counter. Unknown number. Her heart slammed against her ribs. She didn't answer. Another vibration. Then a text. You dropped this. A photo followed. Her scarf. The one she'd left on the stairwell railing weeks ago. Her breath caught. She typed with shaking fingers. Who is this? The response came quickly. Someone who doesn't want you followed home again. Her chest tightened. She stared at the screen, then typed. You shouldn't contact me. 3 dots appeared. Disappeared. Appeared again. I won't if you don't want me to. But someone's watching your building. And they're not subtle. Mara closed her eyes. He was already in danger. Why are you helping me? She sent. There was a longer pause this time. Because no one should live like they're already guilty. Her fingers hovered over the screen. She didn't reply. Outside, footsteps echoed in the hallway. Slow. Measured. Not the building manager. Mara's body went cold. She moved silently to the light switch and turned it off. Darkness swallowed the room, broken only by the city glow leaking through thin curtains. A knock sounded. Once. Twice. Mara! A man's voice called softly. We just want to talk. Her name. Her not name. Her pulse thundered in her ears. The phone buzzed again in her hand. They're there. Don't open the door. Her eyes burned. How do you know? She typed. The reply was immediate. Because they walked past my car on the way in. Her breath hitched. Another knock. Harder. Mara, the voice said again, losing patience. You've made things very complicated. She backed away from the door, heart racing, mind calculating escape routes that didn't exist. Then, a sound from the hallway. Footsteps. Multiple. Fast. Raised voices. The knock stopped. Mara pressed her hand over her mouth, tears stinging her eyes. Minutes passed. Or seconds. She couldn't tell. Finally, silence. Her phone vibrated once more. They won't be back tonight. But this won't stop. Her knees gave out and she sank onto the floor. You don't understand what you're getting into, she typed. I do, came the reply. And I'd still choose it. She stared at the words until they blurred. Jun-suk watched from across the street as the lights in her apartment flickered back on. His men stood behind him, silent. They won't try again tonight, one said. But this is escalation. Yes, Jun-suk replied. It is. He hadn't planned on entering her world. But someone else already had. And they had chosen violence. His phone buzzed. A new message from his lieutenant. Boss, we found something else. Her disappearance 3 years ago wasn't voluntary. She was the sole witness to a classified incident involving human testing. She survived. They want to make sure she's the last. Jun-suk's jaw tightened. Human testing, corporate power, government silence. This wasn't just danger. This was erasure. He looked up at her window again. She was standing there now, just a shadow behind thin fabric. Watching the street. Watching for fear. Jun-suk made a decision he knew would change everything. Pull the car around, he said. One of his men hesitated. Boss, this isn't your war. Jun-suk's gaze didn't leave the building. It is now. As the engine started, his phone buzzed again. A single message from an unknown number. If you keep protecting me, they'll come for you next. Jun-suk typed back without hesitation. Then they'll learn what it means to look at the wrong man. Across the street, behind glass and curtains, Mara's phone lit up. Her heart clenched as she read his words. For the first time in years, fear wasn't the only thing she felt. Hope slipped in quietly, dangerously, and far above them both, unseen eyes watched the street through satellite feeds. Logging faces, timestamps, connections. Kang Jun-suk's name was added to the file, and a new order was issued. Eliminate both. The first thing Mara noticed was the silence. Not the peaceful kind, but the kind that comes when something is wrong. Her apartment felt too still. No distant traffic horns. No footsteps from neighbors. Even the hum of electricity seemed muted, as if the city itself were holding its breath. She stood near the window, phone clutched in her hand, staring down at the street where Kang Jun-suk's black sedan had disappeared minutes earlier. Eliminate both. She didn't know those words had been spoken yet, but she felt them. A chill crept up her spine. Mara pulled the curtains closed and leaned her forehead against the glass. For years, she had survived by becoming invisible, by staying small, by letting the world look past her instead of at her. And now one man had looked, really looked, and everything was unraveling. Her phone vibrated. Pack a bag. Only essentials. You can't stay there tonight. Her heart dropped. They're gone, she typed. You scared them off. I delayed them, came the reply. That's not the same thing. She sank onto the edge of her bed. If I run, they'll chase harder. That's how this always goes. There was a pause. Longer than before. Then don't run. Come with me. Her breath caught. She stared at the message, reading it again and again, as if the words might change. Come with me. She laughed softly, the sound breaking in her throat. You don't even know me. The typing dots appeared slowly this time. I know you're brave. I know you're hunted. And I know I won't forgive myself if I leave you here. Mara closed her eyes. This was how it always began. Someone kind. Someone confident. Someone who believed they could shield her from a world that wanted her erased. And it always ended the same way. Blood. Guilt. Graves she never visited. She typed one final message. If you help me, you'll lose everything. The reply came almost instantly. I already have. I just didn't notice until tonight. Tears spilled down her cheeks before she could stop them. Damn you, she whispered into the quiet room. She stood, opened her closet, and pulled out a small backpack hidden behind winter coats. Inside were documents wrapped in plastic, cash in multiple currencies, a burner phone, and a faded photograph she never looked at. She hesitated, then zipped the bag shut. Jun-suk waited in the underground parking garage 2 buildings away, engine off, lights dark. His men were positioned at every exit. Silent, alert. This wasn't a rescue. It was an extraction. He checked his watch. If she didn't come in the next 2 minutes, he would go up himself. And that would end subtlety. The elevator dinged softly. Jun-suk straight reminded. The doors slid open. Mara stepped out. She wore a black hoodie pulled low over her pale hair, face bare, eyes sharp with resolve and fear tangled together. The backpack hung from one shoulder like it weighed more than it should. Their eyes met. Something unspoken passed between them. You came, he said. She nodded once. I won't stay long. That's fine, he replied. Just long enough to be safe. She almost smiled at that. Almost. He opened the back door for her. She paused, studying him. His calm posture, the controlled danger in his stillness. "Why are you really doing this?" she asked quietly. Jun-suk held her gaze. "Because someone decided your life was disposable. And that bothers you?" "Yes." She searched his face, looking for lies. Found none. She got in. The car moved. As they pulled out of the garage, Mara looked out the window, memorizing the streets she might never see again. "You should know," she said softly. "They won't stop." "They never do," Jun-suk replied. "But they will slow down." She laughed without humor. "You sound like you've fought this kind of power before." "I am this kind of power," he said. She turned to look at him. Really look. Not just the suit. Not just the authority. The scars. The tired eyes. The loneliness carefully hidden behind discipline. "Then why help me?" she asked. Jun-suk didn't answer immediately. The city lights slid across his face as he drove. "Because once," he said slowly, "I was the one people wanted erased, and no one stepped in." Mara's chest tightened. The car entered a private tunnel, guarded, sealed off from public access. As they passed through, security scanners swept the vehicle. Steel gates slid open, then shut behind them with a heavy finality. Her pulse quickened. "Where are you taking me?" she asked. "My home," he replied. She stiffened. "That's not safe." "For you," he said. "It's the safest place in Seoul." They emerged into a private underground garage beneath a towering glass structure that pierced the night sky. Jun-suk parked and turned off the engine. Before either of them moved, he said quietly, "There are rules." She met his gaze. "You don't leave without telling me." She nodded. "You don't talk to anyone unless I'm present." Another nod. "And if at any point you want to leave," he finished, "I will help you disappear." She studied him. "And you?" she asked. "What happens to you?" A small, almost sad smile touched his lips. "That's my problem." They rode the elevator in silence, the ascent smooth and quiet. Soft instrumental music played overhead, something classical, restrained. The doors opened into a penthouse that felt more like a gallery than a home. Clean lines, neutral tones, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Han River. Mara stepped out cautiously. "This place doesn't look lived in," she murmured. "It isn't," Jun-suk replied. He led her to a guest room tucked away from the main living space. The bed was neatly made. Fresh clothes waited on the chair. A bathroom glowed softly beyond frosted glass. "You can lock the door," he said. "No one will come in." She hesitated, then turned to him. "Thank you." The words felt small compared to the risk he was taking. Jun-suk inclined his head. "Rest. Tomorrow we talk." As he turned to leave, Mara spoke again. "They changed me," she said quietly. He stopped. "Whatever they did," she continued, "it's why people look at me like I'm wrong, like I shouldn't exist." Jun-suk turned back. His voice was steady, certain. "Then they're the ones who are wrong." Something in her chest cracked open. He left. Mara locked the door behind him and leaned against it, breath shaky. For the first time in years, she wasn't alone in the dark. Across the city, deep within a glass and steel boardroom, faces appeared on a massive screen. Surveillance footage played silently. Mara exiting her building. Kang Jun-suk's car. The route. The destination. A woman's voice cut through the room. "So," she said coolly, "the Mafia boss has decided to play hero." A man beside her frowned. "That complicates things." "No," she replied. "That simplifies them." She tapped the table once. "Prepare phase 2. "What about collateral?" someone asked. The woman smiled thinly. "There is no collateral," she said. "Only assets and obstacles." The screen froze on Jun-suk's face. Her eyes gleamed. "Remove both." Back in the penthouse, Jun-suk stood alone by the window, watching the river glow under moonlight. His phone buzzed. A single message from his lieutenant. "Boss, we intercepted a directive. They've officially marked you hostile. This is war." Jun-suk didn't respond. Behind him, Down the hall, a door clicked softly as Mara finally lay down to sleep, unaware that by choosing to trust him, she had crossed a line that could never be uncrossed. Jun-suk's reflection stared back at him from the glass. For the first time in his life, he welcomed the coming storm. Because this time, he wasn't fighting for power. He was fighting for her. Morning came quietly. Soft light crept through the sheer curtains of the guest room, painting pale lines across the floor. Mara woke with a sharp inhale. Her body braced for danger that didn't immediately arrive. No shouting. No alarms. No hands dragging her out of bed. Just silence. She sat up slowly, listening. Somewhere far off, water ran. A coffee machine hummed. Life, ordinary and calm, moved beyond the door. Her chest tightened. Calm was dangerous. Calm meant the storm was waiting. She swung her legs off the bed and padded across the room. The clothes Jun-suk had left for her fit too well: soft sweater, clean jeans, house slippers. Thoughtful, careful. That scared her more than force ever could. When she opened the door, the scent of coffee and something warm, toast, maybe, met her. The penthouse looked different in daylight. Less intimidating. More human. Jun-suk stood at the kitchen counter, sleeves rolled up, hair slightly disheveled in a way she hadn't expected. He was reading something on a tablet, expression focused, jaw tight. He sensed her before she spoke. "You didn't sleep," she said. He glanced up. "I did. Just not much." She stepped closer, careful, like approaching a wild animal that hadn't decided whether to bite. "You always cook for guests?" she asked. "No," he replied. "I don't usually have guests." She accepted the cup he handed her. Their fingers brushed. Brief. Electric. Neither of them spoke. Finally, she asked, "What happens now?" Jun-suk leaned against the counter, studying her. Not her face this time, but her posture. The way she stood like someone ready to bolt. "Now," he said, "we figure out who wants you gone and why." She laughed softly. "You say that like it's simple." "It isn't," he agreed. "But it's necessary." She wrapped both hands around the mug, grounding herself. "If they find out where I am, they already suspect," he interrupted gently. "Which is why we don't hide. We fortify." Her gaze sharpened. "You want to draw them out?" "Yes. That puts everyone here at risk." "It already has," he said. She looked away, jaw tightening. "This is what happens. People get close to me, and everything burns." Jun-suk was quiet for a moment. Then, "You're not cursed," he said. Her laugh this time was brittle. "You don't know that." "I know patterns," he replied. "And I know blame when I see it. You've been carrying responsibility that isn't yours." She swallowed hard. Before she could respond, the elevator chimed. The air shifted instantly. Jun-suk's body moved without thought, placing himself subtly between her and the open space. His hand lifted, palm out, signaling his men before they even appeared. Two entered, then a third. His lieutenant bowed slightly. "Boss, we have confirmation." Jun-suk's eyes didn't leave Mara. "Speak." They traced the directive. It's coming from an offshore biotech subsidiary, officially defunct, unofficially protected by a multinational board with government ties. Mara's grip tightened around the mug. "They found me," she whispered. The lieutenant glanced at her, then back at Jun-suk. Yes and no. Jun-suk finally looked at her. "Tell me." She set the mug down carefully, like it might shatter if she wasn't gentle. "I was part of a trial," she said. "They called it medical research. Advanced therapy. They said it would help people like me, people with rare conditions." Her voice remained steady, but her eyes darkened. "They didn't tell us the side effects, or the failures, or that some of us wouldn't survive." The room felt colder. "They altered cellular responses," she continued. "Immune systems, regeneration markers, things that shouldn't be rushed." Jun-suk's expression hardened. "I lived," she said. "Others didn't. When I tried to expose it, they erased me." Silence pressed in. "They can't let me exist," Mara finished quietly. "Because I'm proof." Jun-suk exhaled slowly. They marked you not because you're dangerous, he said, but because you're inconvenient. Yes. The lieutenant shifted. Boss, there's more. Jun-suk nodded once. They're moving faster than expected. A proxy group has been activated. Not corporate. Street level. Disposable. Mara's shoulders tensed. They'll come loud. They won't reach you, Jun-suk said firmly. She looked at him. Really looked. You can't protect me forever. I don't intend to, he replied. I intend to end this. Something in his tone made her breath catch. The lieutenant hesitated. Boss, going after the board means exposing your own operations. Your allies will turn. Your enemies will celebrate. Jun-suk didn't hesitate. Then let them. After the men left, Mara stood frozen. You'd burn your world down, she said softly. For someone you met last night? He stepped closer, stopping just short of touching her. No, he said. I'd rebuild it. Her heart stuttered. She turned away, suddenly overwhelmed. You don't know what loving someone like me costs. I'm aware, he said quietly. The question is whether you are. She faced him again. What if I don't want anyone else hurt because of me? What if? He countered. You deserve not to face this alone. Their gazes locked. For a moment, the penthouse disappeared. There was only the space between them, heavy with everything unsaid. Then, a distant sound. Not loud, not close, but wrong. Jun-suk's eyes flicked toward the windows. His phone vibrated in his hand. One message. Boss. Perimeter breach detected. Multiple hostiles. They're testing your defenses. Mara felt the blood drain from her face. They're here, she whispered. Jun-suk took her hand. Firm. Steady. They won't touch you, he said. The first explosion rocked the lower floors, distant but powerful enough to rattle the glass. Mara gasped. Alarms began to wail. Jun-suk pulled her toward the secure corridor, voice calm despite the chaos. Stay with me, he said. No matter what you hear. As they moved, she looked up at him, fear and something else twisting together in her chest. If we survive this, she said, nothing will ever be the same. Jun-suk met her gaze, eyes burning with certainty. I know. Behind them, smoke began to rise. And somewhere below, the war they never asked for had officially begun. The penthouse lights flickered once, then shifted to emergency red. Mara's ears rang as another blast thundered through the building. Closer this time. The floor vibrated beneath her feet as Jun-suk pulled her into the secure corridor, steel doors sliding shut behind them with a heavy hiss. Her heart pounded so hard she was sure he could feel it through her hand. Breathe, he said, steady and low. Match my pace. She tried. The corridor was narrow, lined with reinforced panels and discreet cameras. This wasn't just a luxury home. It was a fortress. Gunfire echoed somewhere below. Sharp. Controlled. Not random. They're professionals, Mara whispered. Yes, Jun-suk replied. But not mine. They reached a junction. He pressed his palm to a scanner. Green light. Another door opened. Inside was a command room, screens lighting up with feeds from stairwells, elevators, the underground garage. His men moved with precision, voices calm through earpieces. Mara stared, stunned. You live like this? She asked. I prepared for betrayal, he said. I didn't expect it to arrive wearing your face. She flinched. I'm sorry. He turned to her instantly. Don't. Another explosion boomed, closer. One of the screens cut to static. A voice crackled through the speakers. Boss. South stairwell compromised. They're pushing up. Jun-suk's jaw tightened. Hold them at level 12. Do not let them reach the residential floors. Yes, boss. Mara's breath came shallow. She forced herself to speak. They won't stop until they see me dead. Jun-suk met her eyes. Then they'll be disappointed. He guided her to a chair near the center of the room. Sit. Stay. She grabbed his sleeve. You're not going down there alone. I won't be alone, he said. But you won't be with me. Fear surged, raw and immediate. I can't hide while people die for me. He crouched in front of her, bringing his eyes level with hers. The chaos around them faded. Listen to me, he said softly. You are not a burden. You are the reason this ends. Her lips trembled. You talk like this is already decided. It is, he replied. Before she could respond, the room shook violently. A crack split one of the screens, spiderwebbing outward. Boss! A voice shouted. They've breached level 14. That was too close. Jun-suk stood. Change of plan. He turned to Mara. There's a panic route behind this wall. It leads to a shielded elevator straight to the river docks. Her eyes widened. You're sending me away. I'm sending you alive. She shook her head. I won't go without you. He hesitated. Just a fraction. It was the first crack in his certainty. Then, unexpectedly, Mara reached into her bag. Jun-suk stiffened. What are you doing? She pulled out a slim data drive. This, she said, voice shaking but resolute, is why they won't stop. It's everything I took before I disappeared. Trial data. Names. Proof. His eyes darkened. If they get this, she continued, they erase the truth forever. If you get it out, they burn, he finished. She nodded. Another explosion cut through the air. The lights dimmed further. Jun-suk took the drive, closing his fist around it like it weighed 1,000 lives. I'll protect this, he said. Protect me too, she whispered. He looked at her like that promise might break him. I will, he said. A man burst into the room, bleeding from a cut above his brow. Boss, we can't hold them much longer. Jun-suk moved fast. He pressed a hidden panel. The wall slid open, revealing a narrow passage. He grabbed Mara's hands, holding them tight. You go now. The driver will take you to a safe house. I'll meet you there. Her eyes searched his face. Promise. He hesitated again. Then he said, I swear. She pulled him into a sudden embrace. Startled him. Her arms wrapped around his torso, fingers clutching the fabric of his shirt like she was anchoring herself to him. For a second, he froze. Then he held her back, carefully, fiercely. If you die, she whispered against his chest, I will never forgive you. He let out a breath that was almost a laugh. Then I suppose I don't have a choice. Footsteps thundered closer. Shouts echoed through the corridor. Jun-suk pushed her gently toward the passage. Go, he said. She took one step, then turned back. Without thinking, she reached up and pressed a quick, trembling kiss to his cheek. Not planned, not polished, just real. Jun-suk stood stunned as she disappeared into the passage, the wall sliding shut behind her. For a brief moment the world went silent. Then, he turned. Cold returned to his eyes. All units, he said into his calm voice like steel. No more holding. We push back. Gunfire erupted louder now. Closer. Jun-suk moved through the penthouse with lethal calm, directing his men, reclaiming ground inch by inch. But his mind wasn't on strategy. It was on the weight of her arms around him. On the way she'd looked at him like he was her last safe place. The shielded elevator descended fast. Mara gripped the railing as the building trembled above her. Tears streamed down her face, unchecked. Please, she whispered into the empty space. Don't die. The elevator doors opened into darkness and cool night air. The river glimmered ahead, black and endless. A man waited by the car. Mississippi, we have to go. She hesitated, looking back toward the tower now glowing with emergency lights. A distant explosion bloomed near the top. Her heart shattered. The car door opened. She stepped in. As the vehicle pulled away, her phone vibrated. One message. From Jun-suk. I'm still standing, and I'm coming back to you. She pressed her hand to her mouth, sobbing silently as the city rushed past. Above them, smoke curled into the night sky, and far away, in a boardroom filled with screens and shadows, a woman watched the burning tower with narrowed eyes. Interesting, she murmured. He chose her. She turned to the men beside her. Then we'll make him choose again. The screen zoomed in on Mara's face from a traffic camera. The hunt wasn't over. It had only changed targets. The safe house overlooked the river, but Mara never saw the view. She sat on the edge of the bed, hands clenched in her lap, eyes fixed on the dark screen of her phone. Every sound made her flinch. The hum of the air conditioner, footsteps from another apartment, a car passing outside. Minutes felt like hours. She replayed the explosion in her mind. The way the tower had trembled. The way Jun-suk had looked at her before she left. Like he was memorizing her face in case he never saw it again. "You said you'd come back," she whispered. The door clicked. Mara shot to her feet, heart slamming. The man who entered was one of Jun-suk's. Calm, clean, alive. "Miss," he said respectfully. "Chairman Kong asked me to stay with you." Relief hit her so hard her knees nearly buckled. "Is he—" Her voice broke. "Is he okay?" The man nodded. "He survived the initial assault. He's still handling things." That didn't sound finished. Mara sank back onto the bed. "They won't stop. Not now." "No," the man agreed. "They won't." Silence stretched. Then she said, "They'll come for me next." He didn't deny it. Jun-suk stood in a different kind of silence. The penthouse was scarred. Smoke clung to the air. Glass crunched under his shoes as he walked past shattered walls and blackened marble. His men moved efficiently, securing the last floors, checking the wounded, sealing exits. The attack had failed, but it had been a message. His lieutenant approached, face grim. "They retreated when they realized they wouldn't reach you. But this wasn't about killing you tonight." Jun-suk already knew. "They wanted to confirm she mattered," he said. "Yes." Jun-suk's jaw tightened. "They got their answer." He turned toward the window. Dawn was beginning to creep into the sky, pale and uncertain. "She's safe?" he asked. "Yes." A breath left him, slow, controlled, but the tension didn't. "Good," he said. "Because now we move." Mara couldn't sleep. She paced the living room, bare feet cold against the floor, memories rising like ghosts. The lab, the needles, the smiling faces that looked away when people didn't wake up. She pressed her hands to her arms, grounding herself. Her phone vibrated. Her heart leapt. "I'm on my way." She stared at the message, afraid to believe it. "You promised," she typed back. The reply came a minute later. "I keep my promises." She didn't realize she was crying until tears hit the screen. When Jun-suk arrived, he didn't knock. The door opened, and suddenly he was there. Coat gone, shirt torn at the shoulder, a faint bruise darkening his jaw. Alive. Mara crossed the room without thinking and stopped inches from him, hands hovering like she was afraid to touch him. "You're hurt," she said. "Not badly." "You lied earlier," she accused softly. "You said it would be safe." "I said I would protect you." She swallowed. "Those aren't the same." He studied her for a long moment. "No," he agreed. "They're not." She stepped closer, resting her forehead briefly against his chest. The solid warmth of him made her knees weak. "I thought I lost you," she whispered. Jun-suk closed his eyes. "So did I," he said quietly. For a moment, they stood like that, breathing each other in, the world reduced to a shared heartbeat. Then he pulled back, just enough to look at her. "We can't stay like this," he said. "They're watching. They want you to move, to panic, to make mistakes." "So what do we do?" she asked. "We go on the offensive." Her eyes widened. "You mean expose them?" "Yes. And that will paint a target on both of us." "It already has." She considered him, really considered him. The power he carried. The loneliness. The way he kept choosing her even when it cost him everything. "You could still walk away," she said. "Protect yourself. Let me disappear again." His gaze softened but didn't waver. "I won't," he said. "Why?" she asked again, needing to hear it. "Because when you looked at me in that hallway," he said slowly, "you didn't see a monster. And I've lived my whole life being treated like one." Her chest tightened. "You're not," she said. He smiled faintly. You're the only one who's ever said that. Something shifted then, quiet, irreversible. They didn't kiss. They didn't need to. The space between them felt sacred. Later, as night settled again, Jun-suk sat across from his lieutenant, the data drive plugged into a secure terminal. Information flooded the screen. Names, dates, facilities, deaths disguised as side effects. This will destroy them, the lieutenant said. Yes, Jun-suk replied, but only if we survive long enough to release it. A new alert flashed. Jun-suk's eyes narrowed. They've made their next move, the lieutenant said. What? They're leaking misinformation, painting Mara as unstable, dangerous, claiming she attacked your residence. Mara, standing in the doorway, froze. They're turning me into the villain, she whispered. Jun-suk stood instantly. No, they're doing what they always do, she said hollowly. If they can't erase me quietly, they make sure no one believes me. Jun-suk took her hands. Then we won't play quiet, he said. We'll go public. Together. Fear flashed across her face. That's suicide. No, he said. That's truth. Sirens wailed faintly in the distance. News alerts began lighting up phones across the city. Jun-suk's name, her face, lies spreading fast. Mara felt the weight of the world press down on her again. They'll come for me harder now, she said. He met her gaze, unflinching. Let them, he said. They'll have to go through me first. Outside, unseen in the dark, cameras adjusted their focus. A woman watched the broadcast from a private jet, lips curling into a smile. So, she murmured, you want the spotlight. The jet turned toward Seoul. Let's see how well love survives daylight. The game had changed, and for the first time everyone was watching. The morning broke without mercy. Screens across Seoul flickered with the same image. Mara's face, frozen mid-step from a traffic camera. Pale, unsmiling, framed by headlines written to cut deep. Mystery woman linked to Gangnam attack insider claims. She is dangerous. Chairman Kong harbored a threat. Mara stood in front of the television, arms wrapped around herself, every muscle locked. They always do this, she whispered. They turn fear into a story, and the story into truth. Jun-suk turned the screen off. The sudden silence felt heavy. They're not interested in convincing everyone, he said calmly. Just enough people. She laughed softly, hollow. Enough to justify killing me. Yes. She closed her eyes. For a moment, the old instinct screamed at her. Run, disappear, erase yourself again. It would be easy. She knew how. Jun-suk watched her carefully. You're thinking about leaving, he said. She didn't deny it. This was never supposed to be your war. It became mine the moment they decided your life was expendable, he replied. She looked at him then. Really looked. You're not angry, she said quietly. You're resolved. I am, he said. And so are they. A knock sounded at the door. Both of them stilled. Jun-suk gestured to his man standing guard, who checked the feed and nodded. Media, the man said. Multiple outlets. They've tracked you here. Mara's breath hitched. Already. They want a reaction, Jun-suk said. Fear. Denial. Anything they can twist. She swallowed hard. And if I say nothing, they'll speak for you. The room felt smaller. Then let me speak, she said suddenly. Jun-suk turned to her sharply. Mara, I've spent years silent, she continued, voice shaking but growing steadier. Years letting them decide who I am. I won't do that again. Silence stretched between them. Finally, he said, if you do this, there's no going back. She met his gaze. I know. The press conference was set within the hour. Private hall. Controlled access. Cameras lined up like weapons. Mara stood backstage, hands trembling despite her efforts to still them. Jun-suk stood beside her, close enough that she could feel the warmth of him. You don't have to do this, he said one last time. She looked up at him. I'm not doing it alone, she said. That's the difference. The doors opened. Light flooded in. Cameras turned. Voices rose. They stepped out together. The room exploded with noise. Questions flew like blades. Chairman Kong, are you harboring a criminal? Miss, did you cause the explosion? Is this a cover-up? Jun-suk lifted a hand. The room stilled. My name is Kong Jun-suk, he said evenly. And I called this conference because lies travel fast. Faster than truth. But truth has a way of lasting. He turned slightly toward Mara. She is not a threat, he continued. She is a witness. Murmurs rippled through the room. Mara stepped forward. Her heart pounded so loudly she barely heard herself speak at first. My name isn't Mara, she said. Silence fell. It's the name I used to survive, she continued. But before that, I was a patient, a volunteer, a human being. Cameras zoomed in. I was part of a medical trial run by a subsidiary that no longer officially exists, she said. People died. Their deaths were hidden. Mine was supposed to be. A reporter shouted. Do you have proof? Mara nodded once. Yes. Jun-suk signaled. Screens behind them lit up. Documents. Dates. Faces. The room erupted. Shouts. Gasps. Chaos. Mara kept speaking. They changed me, she said. Not because I was dangerous, but because they didn't want accountability. Her voice wavered. But I lived. And because I lived, they decided I shouldn't. For a second, fear threatened to choke her. Then she felt it. Jun-suk's hand, warm and steady, resting lightly at her back. The room watched. The image burned itself into every broadcast. A mafia boss standing behind a woman the world had tried to erase. Choosing her. In a private suite high above the city, a woman watched the broadcast with narrowed eyes. So she speaks, she said softly. Her assistant shifted. Public sentiment is already dividing. Good, the woman replied. Division is easier to control. She leaned forward. Prepare the final measure. The assistant hesitated. In public, the woman smiled. Especially in public. The conference ended in a storm. Security rushed them out as questions followed like gunfire. In the car, Mara finally exhaled. I did it, she whispered. Yes, Jun-suk said. You did. Her phone buzzed. An alert. Unidentified threat detected. Security breach. Jun-suk's gaze snapped up. Driver, change route. Now. The car swerved. Too late. A deafening crack split the air. The windshield shattered. The car spun violently. Mara screamed as the world turned sideways. Then, impact. Everything went black. When Mara opened her eyes, pain bloomed everywhere. The car lay on its side. Smoke filled the air. She tried to move and cried out. Then she heard it. Jun-suk's voice. Mara. Weak, strained, but alive. She turned her head. He was pinned, blood running down his temple. Don't move, she whispered, terror flooding her. He smiled faintly. I was going to say the same thing. Sirens wailed in the distance. Footsteps approached. Fast, purposeful. Not police. Jun-suk's eyes sharpened despite the pain. Mara, he said urgently. Listen to me. She leaned closer, tears streaming. If anything happens, don't, she sobbed. He lifted his hand with effort, touching her cheek. You live, he said. No matter what. The footsteps were closer now. Too close. Mara heard a safety click. Someone outside laughed quietly. End of the road, a voice said. Mara's heart stopped. And then, gunfire erupted. Not from outside. From above. The attackers fell one by one. Silence followed. Moments later, familiar voices shouted orders. Jun-suk's men. Mara collapsed against the seat, sobbing. Jun-suk closed his eyes in relief. But far away, watching from another screen, the woman's smile faded. They survived, she said coldly. She stood. Then it's time to stop playing. The screen froze on Mara's tear-streaked face. And take something they can't protect. The war wasn't over. It was about to become personal. Mara woke to the steady rhythm of machines. Beep, beep. Beep. White light pressed gently against her eyelids. The smell of antiseptic filled her lungs as she breathed in, slow and careful. Hospital. The realization came with relief and fear. She tried to move. Pain answered immediately. Easy. The voice was familiar. Low. Controlled. Her eyes snapped open. Jun-suk sat beside her bed, one arm in a sling, a faint bruise shadowing his face. He looked exhausted, unshaven, very much alive. Her breath hitched. "You're here," she whispered. He leaned forward slightly. "I promised." Tears spilled down her temples before she could stop them. "I thought." Her voice broke. "I thought they." "I know," he said gently. "So did I." She reached for him with trembling fingers. He took her hand carefully, like she might break. The machines continued their steady rhythm, grounding them both. "How long?" she asked. 2 days. Her eyes widened. 2 days. "You had a concussion. Cracked ribs," he said. "Nothing permanent." She studied his face. "You're lying." A corner of his mouth lifted. "Only a little." Silence settled between them. Then Mara remembered. Her chest tightened. "They said they'd take something we couldn't protect." Jun-suk's gaze darkened instantly. "Yes." Her fingers clenched around his. "What did they do?" He hesitated. That alone terrified her. "They went after the data," he said. "Not the files." "Then what?" "They went after the people." Her breath caught. "Who?" Jun-suk exhaled slowly. "Other survivors." The room felt colder. "They found 3, he continued. 2 are alive. 1. He didn't finish. Mara squeezed her eyes shut, guilt flooding her. "I should never have spoken," she whispered. "I led them right to us." Jun-suk leaned closer. "Look at me." She opened her eyes. "This was never your fault," he said firmly. "They built a machine that eats people. You refusing to be eaten doesn't make you responsible for the damage." Her lips trembled. "People died." "Yes," he said. "And if we stop now, more will." She turned her head away, tears soaking the pillow. Jun-suk stayed silent, giving her space, but not leaving. After a long moment, she whispered, "They won't stop until I'm gone." "They won't stop until they're exposed," he replied. "And if exposure isn't enough? Then we dismantle them," he said calmly. She looked at him, startled. "You can't fight corporations and governments." "I don't need to," he said. "I just need to break the people holding the strings." A nurse entered quietly, checking monitors, adjusting 4 lines. She glanced at Jun-suk, clearly aware of who he was, then at Mara. "You're lucky," the nurse said softly. "Someone very powerful insisted you get the best care." Mara met Jun-suk's eyes. He didn't deny it. That night, after the hospital grew quiet, Jun-suk stood by the window, phone pressed to his ear. "Phase 3 begins now," he said. His lieutenant's voice crackled through. "We're ready. Financial leaks. Shell companies. Politicians on payroll. Release them slowly," Jun-suk instructed. "Let the world watch the rot spread." "And the woman behind it?" the lieutenant asked. Jun-suk glanced back at Mara, asleep but restless, brow furrowed even in dreams. "She wanted to make this personal," he said. "Now it is." Mara dreamed of water, of sinking, of hands reaching for her, but pulling away at the last second. She woke with a gasp. Jun-suk was at her side instantly. "Hey, you're safe." She shook her head. "No, I'm not." He didn't argue. Instead, he said, "But you're not alone." She studied him in the dim light, the man who had been feared his entire life, the man who could have walked away. "Why do you keep choosing me?" she asked quietly. He was silent for a long time. Finally, he said, "Because when you looked at me, you didn't see what I've done. You saw who I could be." Her throat tightened. "And what if I disappear again?" she asked. "To protect you." "I won't let you," he said. "That's not your choice." "No," he agreed. "But staying is." She searched his face. Then, slowly, carefully, She leaned forward and rested her head against his shoulder. Just for a moment. He didn't move, didn't speak. He simply stayed. Across the ocean, in a glass-walled office lit by city lights, the woman stood before a wall of screens. Financial news scrolled rapidly. Executives resign amid corruption scandal, secret medical trials, exposed government officials under investigation. Her jaw tightened. So, she said coldly, he's cutting off oxygen. Her assistant nodded. Public opinion is turning. The woman smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. Good, she said. Then it's time for the final pressure. She tapped one screen. A still image appeared. Mara, leaving the hospital, laughing faintly at something Jun-suk said. The woman's voice dropped to a whisper. If I can't erase her. Her finger pressed another command. I'll make her choose. The screen shifted. A name appeared. A location. Mara's past. Something she thought long buried. Back in the hospital room, Mara shivered suddenly. Jun-suk looked at her sharply. What is it? I don't know, she whispered. But something's wrong. At that exact moment, Jun-suk's phone vibrated. He read the message once. Then again. His expression hardened. What? Mara asked. He lifted his gaze to hers. They found someone you love, he said quietly. And they're using them to draw you out. Mara's heart stopped. The calm before the storm shattered. Because this time, running wasn't an option. And love was the weapon they intended to use. The name burned into Mara's mind long before Jun-suk finished speaking. No, she whispered. That's impossible. Jun-suk's jaw was locked tight. They've been watching you longer than you realized. Her chest tightened painfully. I hid them. I made sure. They didn't find them by accident. He interrupted softly. They baited the trail. You followed it years ago without knowing. Mara pushed herself upright, ignoring the pain. Where? Jun-suk hesitated. That pause told her everything. Tell me, she demanded. Busan, he said. An old district. They chose it because of me. Her voice trembled. They want me to come to you, or go alone. They want you to believe you have a choice. Silence swallowed the room. Then Mara swung her legs off the bed. Jun-suk stood instantly. Don't. I have to, she said. This is my past. My responsibility. I won't let them trade your life for leverage. She met his gaze steady, aching. You already know they will. He ran a hand through his hair, pacing once, then stopping in front of her. If you go, he said quietly, you don't go unprotected. She shook her head. They're watching you. If you move openly, they'll kill them. His eyes darkened. Then I won't move openly. Night fell fast. The city lights below the hospital glittered like nothing was wrong. Jun-suk leaned over the table, maps spread out, his men waiting silently. No weapons visible, he ordered. No tail she can see. One man frowned. Boss, this is a trap. Yes, Jun-suk replied calmly. That's why we're stepping into it. He looked at Mara. You trust me? She swallowed. With everything. Good, he said. Because once this starts, there's no pulling you out. The warehouse smelled like rust and seawater. Mara stepped inside alone. Her footsteps echoed. Right on time. A woman's voice purred from the shadows. The lights flickered on. There she was. Perfect. Cold. Smiling. And alive. The woman added, gesturing. Mara's breath caught. The person tied to the chair lifted their head slowly. Relief and terror crashed into her at once. Let them go, Mara said instantly. The woman laughed softly. You always did skip negotiations. She circled Mara like a predator. Do you know how many systems you broke? How many investors panicked because you refused to disappear? I didn't refuse, Mara said. You erased me. And yet, the woman said, stopping in front of her. You survived. Her smile faded. That was your mistake. Mara clenched her fists. This ends with me. No, the woman said calmly. It ends with a choice. She nodded toward a tablet on the table. On the screen, a live feed. Junsuk, surrounded, guns raised. Mara's heart slammed violently. "Step outside with me," the woman whispered. "Public arrest. Public confession. You take the blame, he walks free. And if I don't?" The woman tilted her head. "Then I erase everyone you've ever protected." Tears filled Mara's eyes. This was it. The moment she had always run from. She took a step forward. Then, a gunshot shattered the air. The lights exploded. Chaos erupted. Men screamed. Glass shattered. Junsuk's voice cut through the darkness, calm and lethal. "Now!" His men poured in from every angle. The woman stumbled back, eyes wide with fury. "You chose him," she hissed at Mara. Mara didn't answer. She ran. Junsuk caught her mid-stride, pulling her into his arms, shielding her as bullets hit metal behind them. "I told you," he said into her hair. "You don't get to sacrifice yourself anymore." She sobbed against his chest. "I was ready to." "I know," he said. "That's why they lost." Sirens wailed in the distance. The woman was dragged away, screaming promises of revenge. As the doors slammed shut, silence returned. Mara pulled back, looking up at Junsuk. "What now?" she whispered. He cupped her face gently, forehead resting against hers. "Now," he said, "we stop running." But somewhere deep in the city, a final message was already being sent. Because some enemies don't disappear when exposed. They wait. And the war wasn't over yet. The morning came quietly, too quietly. Sunlight slipped through the sheer curtains of the penthouse, touching the floor in soft gold lines. Seoul stretched awake below them. Cars humming, people moving, life continuing as if the night before hadn't nearly torn the world apart. Mara stood by the window, barefoot, wrapped in one of Junsuk's shirts. It smelled like him. Clean, warm, safe. She still wasn't used to that word. Safe. Behind her, Junsuk watched without speaking. He had learned that silence was sometimes the only way not to break a fragile moment. The bruises on his knuckles were fading. The city no longer felt like a battlefield, but he knew better than to trust calm too quickly. "You didn't sleep," he said gently. She shook her head. "Every time I closed my eyes, I thought someone would be gone when I opened them again." He crossed the room and stopped behind her, close enough for warmth but not touching. "No one is taking anything from you anymore," he said. "Not without going through me." Mara turned. For a long moment, she just looked at him. Not the Mafia boss the city feared. Not the name whispered in dark rooms. Just the man who had stood between her and the end. "I spent my whole life believing I was dangerous to love," she said quietly. "That anyone who chose me would pay for it." His eyes softened. "And I spent my life believing love was weakness." A slow breath. "Turns out we were both wrong." She smiled, small, uncertain, but real. The fallout was swift. News broke in layers like peeling back old scars. The woman who had hunted Mara was exposed publicly. Her crimes laid bare, her network dismantled piece by piece. Arrests followed. Accounts froze. Names disappeared. The underworld shifted. And for the first time in years, Junsuk stepped back. Not because he was forced to, because he chose to. He handed power to men who wanted stability, not blood. He burned old bridges and sealed new ones quietly, carefully. The city didn't notice the change right away. But the violence slowed. And the silence felt different. Weeks later, rain fell again. But this time it was gentle. Mara stood under a small awning in a quiet street market, watching steam rise from food stalls, listening to vendors call out prices. She held a paper cup of hot tea in both hands. "This place," she said. "It reminds me of who I was before everything went wrong." Junsuk walked beside her, hands in his coat pockets. "Before you hid." She nodded. "Before I learned how to disappear." They stopped near a small bookstore wedged between a cafe and a tailor shop. She smiled softly. "I want something simple." He glanced at her. "Simple? A life where I don't have to look over my shoulder every second." He didn't answer right away. Then he said, "I bought a place." Her eyebrows lifted. You buy a lot of places. Not like this one. He hesitated, then pointed down the street. It's quiet. No guards. No marble floors. Just space. She searched his face. Why are you telling me this? Because, he said, voice steady, I want you there, if you want. Rain tapped lightly on the awning. Mara stepped closer. I'm tired of surviving, she said. I want to live. His breath caught. Then, slowly, he reached for her hand. She didn't pull away. The house was modest. White walls. Wide windows. A small garden that hadn't been touched in years. Mara walked through it slowly, fingertips brushing doorframes, sunlight warming her skin. This feels... She searched for the word. Honest, Jun-suk offered. She turned to him, eyes shining. Yes. They stood in the empty living room, the sound of birds drifting in through an open window. He looked at her, really looked at her. Mara, he said, low and certain. Stay. Not as a command, as a request. She didn't answer with words. She stepped into his arms. He held her like he was afraid the world might still try to steal her away. I'm not leaving, she whispered. Months passed. The city forgot. But they didn't. They learned each other in quiet moments. Shared meals, late-night conversations, laughter that felt unfamiliar at first. Jun-suk learned how to exist without violence. Mara learned how to breathe without fear. Sometimes the past knocked. Sometimes it hurt. But they faced it together. One evening, as the sun dipped low and painted the sky in soft pinks and oranges, Mara stood in the garden, dirt on her hands, smiling at something she had planted. Jun-suk watched her from the doorway. She caught his gaze. What? She asked. He shook his head, a rare smile on his lips. Nothing. Then he walked to her side and said the words that changed everything. Marry me. The world went very still. She laughed, soft, disbelieving, and tears filled her eyes. Yes, she said. Yes. On their wedding day, there were no crowds, no headlines, just a quiet ceremony, sunlight, and promises spoken without fear. When he looked at her, he wasn't a mafia boss. When she looked at him, she wasn't the woman no one dared to see. They were simply two people who chose each other. And this time, love stayed. Forever.